When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that puts the cock in Caucasian.
Oh, no. Well, sometimes. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today, you won.
I murdered you.
You murdered me.
I destroyed
really,
your
really bad. Apparently,
suggestions.
Nobody that listens to this show likes Miley Cyrus, which was the only reason I put flowers on the list.
That was nope.
But now
we're over flowers. We're on to our next thing.
Is it on our playlist yet?
Yeah,
because it has to be now.
It is on our playlist.
We'll put it on there again.
You can't add duplicate songs to your playlist. We have a playlist on Spotify. If you don't know that, any song we ever mention, if I'm feeling up to it, I'll add to our playlist.
Yeah, I'm sure that the ones that don't get added are all mine. But
yeah, because mine are good.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great.
I beat you. We're going to talk about age gaps.
Yeah, we're going to talk about age gaps.
Yep.
It'll be fine.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. But first, feedback and corrections. We did get this, and I thought it was worth discussing briefly. From Tessa. Dear Mike and Kyle, greetings from a Dutch straight female listener. I have a question that often pops up in my head whenever you are referencing a study, Gayest, in which trans people are not mentioned, and you complain about that. Most recently, in the meth and coke episodes, a research study was mentioned that was called something like sexual orientation and substance abuse. Now, I'm no expert by any means, and I do not know any trans people, but as far as I know, trans is not a sexual orientation. So it stands to reason that trans people are not mentioned as a separate group in that study, right? And in general, I would think that for a trans woman, the ultimate goal is to live as and be perceived as a quote-unquote normal woman. You yourselves always say a trans woman is a woman, people. So if a trans woman takes part in a study, she will tick the box for woman in the questionnaire if there is no separate box for trans woman, or maybe even if there is. What is your take on this? Thanks for making me laugh and opening up a new world for me through your podcast. I especially love the friendship you two have. It has been a treat to listen to from the beginning of Gayish. All the best from The Hague, Tessa.
Oh, I'm a treat.
Yeah. Okay, Goose.
Sorry, did you mention you in this email? This was about me. I'm a little treat.
I do think it's an excellent point.
It's a good point that they named it aptly because it is only a study on sexual orientation. You're correct that being trans is not a sexual orientation. But I think that the goal would be that we study and include trans people in, like, the study didn't need to be called sexual orientation. It could have been called sexual and gender minority, study in whatever. Like, they could have included trans people, and you're right that trans people could be included in this data because a trans person could just mark off woman because she's a woman, or man because he's a man. But we want to distinctly study that category because we want to know uniquely how things are affecting the trans community. Like substance abuse, I would love to know if trans people are more likely than cis people to use drugs.
Probably because of trauma, but hey.
Probably because of trauma. I mean, that's what we learned, kind of the story for bisexuals in our Patreon bonus segment on why bisexual people tend to, especially bisexual women, tend to use drugs more.
Women and the coke, man. I still have been thinking about that a whole week.
Yeah. Bi women love the coke, at least more than straight women. But yeah, I think we want to study and understand trans people. The study could have been called something different and uniquely called out trans people as a distinct category. Could have been called LGBT, substance use study or whatever. So that would be the goal.
Yep. Totally agree.
Cool.
Everyone's right.
I am right.
Yeah, great.
And I'm a treat.
Oh God. And now the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
I love the power that I have to just say a thing and then you have to play the music there.
And then, I just stop talking right when you say that. You could, in the middle of anything, say, and now the news. And then I'd have to shut the fuck up right away.
News the first, Kyle.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's a little complicated, but basically, the Trump administration is trying to... oh, my God.
What?
You have to take that out.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not saying his name.
Okay.
President Dickbag Fuckface Assholes administration is trying to purge trans service members from the military, but in a Saturday court filing in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, government lawyers admitted that the Department of Defense does not track service members by gender identity, so they don't actually know how many trans troops are in the military.
Great.
Apparently, there was a 2016 RAND study that estimated that there were between 1,300 and 6,600 trans personnel. But those numbers are almost a decade old. Quote, the Department of Defense does not track service members or applicants by gender identity and has no means of searching for the requested information. So they don't even know. They don't even know who they are, where they are, when they're done with their weird purge. Like, it's amazing to me.
It doesn't matter because it doesn't matter. Like, why we don't need to. I mean, ideally we would be tracking this information so we have data, not to, like, unfortunately by tracking that information you could then do shitty things like this kind of purge. But
well, they also, in the executive order, they said that being trans is disqualifying because it is incompatible, quote, incompatible with honesty, humility, and integrity.
Wow, fuck off. That's mean.
Yeah. But then they also have failed to name any other condition besides gender dysphoria that is similarly incompatible, right? Like, what does that even mean? They just are inventing stuff. But then they claim they know how much money is being spent on gender affirming care, but it is a tiny, tiny, tiny amount, $52 million over nearly a decade, which is a tiny fraction of the $918 billion budget annually.
We spend so fucking much on military.
Yeah. Why?
And we spend so much more than every other country.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
We don't need that much military.
Well, I don't know, man. Maybe.
What? You think so? You think the spending is justified?
I don't think that spending is justified. Let's get that straight. But I do think that it is, we are in an interconnected global environment, geopolitically speaking, and we can't just view it as the United States spending or not spending too much or not enough money. All of these things are interconnected, and it's entirely possible that spending that much is actually protective and good for us and our economy and the world. Maybe. Like, it's just, I think that the arguments get boiled down to these really just very simplistic, like, that's too much money, or like, why are we spending that much money on Ukraine? Fuck them is a thing that the right is saying right now. And, well, because whatever we spend there directly impacts what's happening with Russia, which directly impacts the global stage and our relationship with China. Like, it's not that simple. We're getting more out of that $50 billion than just writing a check to them.
Sure, but ultimately, when you make a budget, you have to decide, does the number go up or down? So it does have to boil down to something pretty simplistic.
Sure.
But it's required to decide how much to spend on the military.
Yeah.
I think it's too much.
Great. So Lambda Legal CEO Kevin Jennings said, quote, this is proof that the trans military ban is a solution in search of a problem. If trans people's
I love that. A solution in search of a problem.
If trans people's presence was somehow disruptive to the military, then they would have the data to prove it. Yeah. And they don't.
Yeah.
This proves that this order is motivated by animus rather than reason.
Yeah. That's everything that they're doing against the trans community is purely based on just they have this feeling that they don't like about trans people and pretending like that's the cause of all of their problems somehow without any kind of proof or evidence or actual reason that would be the case.
Yep. Stop being assholes.
Yeah.
News the second.
Great.
Here's more assholes. So
it's sniffies.
Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, a Republican, has signed into law a bill removing gender identity from the Iowa Civil Rights Act. So they had a law in place that prevented discrimination on the basis of gender identity, and they have removed the protection for trans people.
To be like, no, we want to discriminate against a group of people, that's fucked up. That sucks. That's like, when in history has that been the right thing to do? To be like, repeal protection for a group of people, like of a minority.
Absolutely. And what do they expect to get better?
Yeah.
Besides their ability to be transphobic, or like cost savings that isn't. It's so just Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's just fucking hatred.
Yeah.
And bigotry.
If you don't have to like trans, here's the thing: you don't have to like trans people. Yeah. You don't even have to believe in trans people. Just don't stop doing shit to them. Like, let them just exist.
Yeah.
You can continue to have a heart filled with hatred towards trans people. Just don't be mean. Just don't be a mean person.
Right.
It's not asking that much of people.
Yeah, it's not. Iowa State Senator Tony Bisognano, a Democrat, had a pretty great speech where he was yelling at his Republican colleagues across the aisle and saying basically like that the Republican caucus, who has a stronghold over Iowa politics, didn't even bring anything up for discussion. They decided behind closed doors that this is what was going to happen and have been asked repeatedly to justify this, and they have offered none and just like set the clock ticking, and then Democrats ask questions and none of them get answered, and then the time expires and they vote, and they voted it in. Like,
cock in caucus was another option I could have gone with.
Putting the cock in caucus?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe next week you got to open the show again.
Yeah, that's true.
Quote, he said to them, quote, most of you don't even know somebody who's transgender.
Yeah.
You don't even know them, but you hate them. You have to hate them because you cannot do what you're doing today if you didn't. Mm-hmm. Shame on all of you Christians who want to keep talking about your faith when this is what God talked about. I don't know where you go to church and I don't know what you read, but being a good Christian doesn't take much. Do unto others, take care of your neighbor. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah, there's no hate like Christian love.
Yeah, God damn it. That's a great Facebook group too, by the way. News the third. In direct opposition to that guy's executive order, the Philadelphia School District has announced that it's going to continue to allow trans athletes to compete.
Nice.
On teams that align with their gender identity. So basically, the only lever that the federal government has is federal funding.
Right.
And Philadelphia is basically saying, it's fine, keep your money. Trans kids, we're protecting them.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. The district has a budget of $40.5 billion, according to the Inquirer, only $619 million of which comes from federal funding. So now there are federal grants that are responsible for funding important programs like special ed and early childhood services. No word on whether they're going to actually have their funding restricted as a result of this, or how they will address that budget gap if it is something that they have to deal with. But basically, they're standing by their principles and saying that they're not gonna cave.
That sucks that you have to choose between money and trans people. I mean, hopefully I think the right thing to do, if you can survive, is to choose trans people to be on the side of human rights and, you know, figure out how to deal without the budget. But I know that's easier said than done.
Yep. And regardless of how you feel about all of this, a comprehensive review of several studies of trans athletes competing under their gender identity found that post-transition, trans people are, quote, more similar to their gender identity. It noted that cis athletes also show great variations in ability, and that it is not because trans girls just want to dominate female-bodied people, which is the horseshit rhetoric on the right.
Yeah. If trans women just wanted to dominate a sport, like, we would have seen that happen by now. Yeah. There are enough trans people that have started to compete in things that we would see all of them rise to the top and be the first in everything. And we just don't see that. You don't see trans women winning everything.
Yep. Okay. Great, Kyle. And now news the last. This is late breaking, which is why there's 4 stories this week. But
I didn't know we had a late breaking news option.
Yeah, we sure do. Marcel Bon, who is a gay adult film star known better as Tim Kruger, the founder and representative of Tim Tales, timtales.com, has died. He died of a, quote, tragic yet simple accident at home. A message was posted as an official statement on timtales.com's official blog Said, quote, is with the heaviest of hearts that I have to share the news of the passing of our beloved Marcel, the man who you all knew and loved as Tim Kruger. To the public, he was the ultimate ginger porn star. To me, he was a sweet, caring partner of over 20 years. He was also my best friend. He touched the lives of everyone who had the privilege of knowing him. Rest peacefully, my love. There will never be another one like you. He also said in this, his partner, it's believed that this was written by Grobes Garay, who was Kruger's longtime partner, but it's anonymous the way it was posted. He said, quote, I'm very aware of the stigma that surrounds deaths in the porn industry, so let me make this very clear to hopefully cut down on the inevitable speculation. Tim's death was a tragic yet simple accident at home. There were no drugs involved, nor was there any indication of foul play or suicide. Yeah,
immediately when you hear a porn star death, you think drugs. At least I do.
Well, especially since he's like my age. He's 44.
Yeah.
So, like, that's too young to not have there be a reason.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
Anyway, that's the news.
That's the news. Speaking of porn stars we love, I want to thank the following new Patreon members. Thank you to David Patillo?
Probably Patillo.
Patillo, yep. Thank you to Jay. Oh,
Just Jay?
Just Jay.
Just the letter J?
No, the name Jay.
J-A-Y?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How else would you spell it?
J-A-E?
Oh, it's true.
Or
J-A, just J-A.
J-A-A-A-A-A.
J-A. Thank you to Alexander Mazzella. And Ranger. That was not the last one, but it sounded like I was saying the last one. Ranger. Thank you to Ranger.
It's probably Ranger.
And to Ethan.
Ethan.
Yeah. Thanks, Ethan.
That's a cute name.
Yeah. I bet Ethan's real cute.
Yeah. Take your shirt off.
If you want ad-free episodes a day early, if you want to support the show, if you want bonus content, then go to patreon.com/Gayish podcast and support us.
Do it.
Do you want to talk about age gaps?
Let's talk about age gaps, Kyle.
Well, first, we have to talk about.
You wrecked my hole.
I wrecked you so bad. So,
You DP'd me.
I just DP'd me with my. I alone DP'd you. Yeah. So, on the Gap Bridger poll, it was a tie between age gaps and OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Only 7% of people voted for Miley Cyrus's Flowers.
Yeah. Great.
And on the tiebreaker one, age gaps won at 58%, and OnlyFans was second. And again, only 5% of people wanted Flowers.
It was the worst pick I've ever picked.
I
don't think I've ever done this poorly.
I think you did pretty bad, and I think you should take a moment to feel that.
Yeah. Everything's bad, and I should feel bad.
You should
today.
feel bad today for sure, Z's. But also, age gapped was a request from Kyle or Sile. I don't know how you pronounce C-Y-L-E. Sile Pawnshot. So thank you to Sile. You're getting your wish as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're welcome. I don't know why that became abrasive, but it did.
God.
Yeah, let's talk about age gaps.
All right. Well, just right out of the gate, Kyle, we're going to talk about like personal life stuff later, and I am a self-nominated expert here.
Yes. You're actively an expert.
That's right. The gap between my boyfriend and I is 18 years. So keep that in the back of your head. Be nice to me. Be nice to us. If any of your data says that we're doomed to fail, just keep that shit to yourself, Kyle.
Well then, okay, well, I don't know what to talk about then.
Okay, great. Excellent.
All of my data, all of my information is about how horrible. No, age gap relationships can be wonderful, beautiful things.
All right, now
surely.
Don't patronize me.
Okay. I don't know. I can't win.
So OnlyFans is the Patreon bonus episode. If you want to hear that, then pay us. Okay, let's talk about the history of age gaps, Kyle.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Is it going to get awkward?
It's going to get a little awkward.
Okay.
Because we have to start, of course, with ancient
Greece.
Do we? Well, so the thing is, it's gay. Like that's the why we have to start with them, because they were just so gay and didn't really hide it that much, because they didn't really have enough shame to note that they should hide it. But in ancient Greece, relationships between older men and younger boys, also known as pederasty, was socially accepted and even encouraged as a form of mentorship. And then in ancient Rome inherited, to a certain extent, some of that culture. Asterisk, they might have come up with it independently on their own, but whatever. It was less institutionalized and had different forms or whatever.
I feel like you also died when you were like 22 back then, you know? So maybe 14 was like middle-aged.
Okay, well, that's a common misconception.
It's nothing that I said was true.
Well, it's just that we have not been taught very well as American students of history to understand the statistics that are involved in...
Yeah, you were more likely to die young, but if you did survive, then...
That's right. Like the average age of death was like 30-something, but that's because the infant mortality rate was over 50%.
Yeah.
Like that's going to... A lot of zeros is going to bring that number down.
Yeah.
And people did die younger because of medicine and food, nutrition, but it isn't quite as bleak as we are led to think or believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so to a certain extent, age gaps as a thing starts early and starts gay.
That's me. I started early and I started gay.
Then next, medieval Europe. So marriages often involved significant age gaps, but particularly among the nobility. So here's the thing. When we talk about like the normalization from a cultural and social standpoint of age gaps in relationships, a lot of things start at the top. And the nobility were very, very fond of marrying off the 6-year-old king to the queen from this other country to solidify ties. Right? Like that's how you kept the peace, was by marrying your kids off to other countries. And that's something that people would have been very aware of. Right. And so there's some thinking that perhaps that had a way of normalizing and keeping down age gaps, not keeping them down, but normalizing and keeping down the controversy surrounding age gaps. In the early modern periods, so this is like 16th to 18th centuries. So especially in arranged marriages, age gaps continue to be common. And this is when we start seeing romantic love start to be a thing. Like really before that, you married for protection, you married for property rights, you married for estate planning, that sort of thing. It was less about what we would consider romantic love.
Right. You gave your daughter away to get a duck or whatever.
Right. Exactly. And so then the Victorians. It's always the Victorians.
Always the Victorians.
They are the ones who really said, maybe you should like the person you're married to. And saw romantic love become the basis for marriage. But older men marrying younger women was still very common. And a lot of that was due to economic stability and just that culturally that's what was expected. So we don't have a lot of historical context here for queer people. Like a lot of it is just straight people and their stuff. Yeah, I know, right? But there are a couple of things historically to point out about gay people. Sappho of Lesbos, the Greek poetess, apparently had relationships with younger women.
Get it, girl.
Yeah, get it, girl. But that she has said some things that have survived poetry-wise, and other people talking about her and her poetry, even if the poetry they're talking about doesn't exist anymore, that she was doing a like older man, younger man mentorship-like relationship, but she was doing it with younger women. And
so she was like helping other people become poets, like mentoring them poet wise,
helping other women become poets while finger blasting them. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. That's give you a lot to write poetry about then.
Yeah. Michael Field was a British lesbian poet. Michael Field was actually a pen name for Catherine Bradley and her niece, Edith Cooper. and had a significant age gap. And then Simone de Beauvoir and Sylvie Le Bon, the French philosopher, had a relationship, and there was a 33-year age gap between them. So anyway,
put you to shame.
The Greeks, all of the historical Greek and Roman examples that we have are common and male because that was more appropriate. But even lesbians forever have had this as a thing. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to talk about in this little history section, though, is uncomfortable. And it's that a lot of the information that's out there about this stuff focuses on fucking for reproduction. Like,
right.
If you start looking for a reason why, like, why are we like this? Everybody wants to point to biology, and everybody wants to point to reproduction. And that's hilarious because gay people can't reproduce naturally. Yeah,
the idea being a man would naturally want to date a younger woman because she would, like, that's better for, giving birth. Yeah,
that the reason that, like, it's been studied that, like, 25, that, like, straight dudes are into 25-year-olds, and that there's maybe a reason for that. It's like that's prime baby making season for ladies.
That just explains Leonardo DiCaprio.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Exactly right. It's weird because there's also then, like, who's the dude and who's the chick in a gay relationship? That's a ridiculous question. We're both dudes, but also is my proclivity to date younger, which did not start with my current relationship, is that because of some weird rewired desire to have babies with a 25-year-old? I don't know.
Huh.
There's a bunch of theories about why this might have evolved, and all of them sort of leave out the idea that being queer, being a gay person, could happen naturally, and we know that it does.
Right.
And anyway, that's
didn't at one point, because we didn't have legal protections, gay people, like, adopt the younger one, get adopted, and that would help afford some legal protections to the couple.
Yeah, that even happened with oh my god, who was that faggot that ran the government, that ran the army for Washington, who was gay?
Oh, we've talked about him before.
Yeah, we have.
I think we did a full Patreon bonus episode on him.
Yep.
I don't remember who that is.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yep, that's about it.
I think that he adopted some younger army dudes that he was banging so they could have his property after he died.
Yeah, I thought that's why I was going to get uncomfortable. But okay, should I tell you some Urban Dictionary definitions?
I hope you will.
Okay, this is now getting into some of the names we use to describe people that date people of different ages.
Yeah.
First, there's cougars.
Yeah.
Urban Dictionary says it's an older woman who frequents clubs in order to score with a much younger man.
Wow.
The cougar can be anyone from an overly surgically altered wind tunnel victim to an absolute sad and bloated old hornmeister to a real hottie or MILF.
Oh my God.
Cougars are gaining in popularity, particularly the true hotties, as young men find not only a sexual high, but many times a chick with her shit together.
Yeah. This is like, did you watch Cougar Town?
Yes, I loved Cougar Town.
I did not watch Cougar Town, but that's the premise, right? Like,
it starts out that way, and then it evolves, and then they just made jokes about their own name in the intro credits.
Great.
Because they were like, it's not about this anymore.
Yeah, okay. But it was about that.
It was.
To start,
yes.
Yes. I mean, it's a concept that's been around for a while. What I love about it, though, is, like, it puts the woman in a position of power in a world where we rarely do that.
Right.
And so, yeah. Also, how do you feel about GILFs?
I mean, depending on, like, you can be a GILF in your 40s or 50s, you know, like, you can, depending on the age you have your kids and your kids have your kids, like, so I don't know. I hope I'm getting it when I'm never going to be a GILF, but because I'm never going to have kids, so I won't technically be a grandfather. But I hope I'm getting it when I'm old.
Yeah, me too.
So go for it.
I want that for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, Go Women, female power to cougars. Also, they did a lot of like describing her physical looks as part of this, which is what we do. We focus overly on the physical appearance of women, and this gave some not so great descriptions of potential looks of women. But
did not like that.
Yeah, but the idea that there's some positives to an older woman, like she might have her shit together or she might be super hot, like there's a lot to like about older women. I think that's a useful thing because you know, they say like in Hollywood there are no roles for women over 40 or something.
This is also the Samantha Jones Smith Jarrett thing, right? Like she's a cougar, big time in Sex and the City. I'm talking about Sex and the City, everybody, in case you don't know it.
There's also for each of these I also looked up like sub definitions or like alternative definitions. There's one called baby cougar.
Oh,
smoking hot girl in her 20s who only likes younger men. She aggressively hunts 18 to 22 year olds and 16 to 17 year olds when in Nevada.
Oh, This is a true thing though, like that's worth talking about.
What?
Age of consent.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is relevant very much to age gaps. What about age of consent?
I mean, there's a few things.
Yeah.
There's a few things.
Sure. Like what?
First of all, that whatever your moral and ethical framework is, the legal construct of age of consent likely does not fit it, right? Like,
do you mean like you're ethically we have different beliefs than legally?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people think dating an 18-year-old is too young and view you as a predator, even if it's legal. Right.
That's right. Like legally, that 18-year-old totally is an adult, has the right to blow you, whatever. Yeah. And that's, you know, some people are icked out by that. That's for sure.
I hooked up with an 18-year-old recently.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
Was it good for him?
He didn't tell me when he was coming.
Oh.
He was like, I came.
Oh.
I was like, okay.
Great.
Cool.
Great.
Okay. That's what I felt.
Look at you mentoring.
No, I didn't help him at all. I didn't guide him through that process or like educate him on like, you should in the future say, I'm coming. Or at least, when
I was in college, I got a blowjob and from a lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I came.
Mm-hmm.
I did not warn her.
Oh, no.
Didn't know that I should have or needed to.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you got to warn me.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. She was also older.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. You
usually date younger.
Yeah. Except women. My ex-wife was older than me.
Oh, yeah. Wow. It's interesting. It's opposite for women.
Mm-hmm.
You have different tastes in women than you do in men.
Very different.
Yes. The next definition is cradle robbers.
Yeah.
A person who taps people significantly younger than he or she is. If X is the older person's age, then they are a cradle robber. If they date a person who is less than half of their age plus 7 years.
I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah?
Yeah, in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put a hold on that. There's also the San Franciscan cradle robber.
Oh, no.
Which is a sex act where you wait till the bitch's water breaks, then you fuck her in the ass so hard she doesn't realize she's giving birth, and you reach around and steal her baby.
It's so graphic and unnecessary and has never happened.
It's never happened
in humanity.
But it is more a cradle robber than cradle robbers. That's a literal cradle robber.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that referring to a vulva as a cradle is appropriate, but...
No, I'm assuming you birthed it into a cradle right there. There's gold digger.
Yeah. I ain't saying she's a gold digger. But she ain't messing with no broke beep.
Thanks. Was worried about that. Let's see. Their Urban Dictionary definition is someone who only likes people because of how much money they have or because of the items they own. There's also the fool's gold digger, which is a dumbass trick who dates a guy because she thinks he is rich when he is actually poor.
Yeah.
again, like very judgmental and very like women. This is straight, very heterosexist and sexist. And there's gold digger, someone who seeks romantic involvement with a wealthy individual with the goal of obtaining wealth from the relationship, who specifically targets someone who has successfully sought romantic involvement with a wealthy individual who had the goal of obtaining wealth from the relationship.
Don't you think that means that they would see it coming?
I don't know. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean you can see it in others. Do you see yourself in others?
That's totally true. That's totally true. And I wanted to ask the question while we're on the subject of gold digging.
Yeah.
It's bad, right?
If one of the things you get from a relationship is they have money and they're able to spend money on you and they decide to spend that money on you, I don't know that it's necessarily as bad as we like to think of it. I think there's an implication when you say gold digger of like someone that doesn't actually love the person and is just after their money and only doing it for that. So in that case, I don't know. Even then, like if that person, I don't know, I guess if you're tricking them into believing you care when you really don't, that's a shitty thing to do. But also this person is presumably dating you and choosing to spend the money on you. So that's their choice as well.
There are two cognitive biases at play at the same time here, and I think
let's get into cognitive biases.
Great. The first is binary thinking, this tendency to say that something is either good or it is bad. Mm-hmm. Like you've got to pass judgment on, is this relationship good or is it bad?
Yeah.
And maybe there's a wide spectrum of options for a relationship that aren't on a black and white, evil versus good scale.
Yeah,
like
very true.
But I think that there's this like, oh, she's a gold digger or he's a gold digger, whatever. So that means it is bad. Binary thinking, it is bad.
Yeah.
And then
we want non-binary thinking.
Non-binary thinking.
Yeah.
The other thing is singularity of purpose, which is related but slightly different. Which is that whatever somebody's doing something for, it is for one reason and one reason only. Mm. That somebody could be in a relationship in which financial stability or security or even sugar is part of the equation. That doesn't mean that that's the only reason that person is in that relationship, and there could be a wide variety of reasons, of which that might be one.
Yeah.
That make your binary thinking about whether that relationship is good or bad, it just like simplistic and incorrect.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
Yeah. I went on a date with a couple once, and after we got like some drinks or something and the check came, and he immediately got out his credit card, and he was like, and I like went to go for mine to split it. And he was like, no, I'm paying. That's the benefit of dating an older guy. So he was like leaning into the like, no, this is part of the value that I bring.
Great. Yeah.
I
sure
took off my pants right there.
Yeah. Good work. And for dessert,
eat my ass. We're having cake. Let's see. There's sugar daddy.
Yeah. Sugar.
And then there's sugar daddy complex, a man who is obsessed with taking care of any and all expenses their friends have created.
Oh.
And then there's sugar.
Is it a complex?
It could be, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's sugar mama.
Mm.
And there are two definitions: a woman in her 40s that gives younger men or women money, or women. Wow. They're getting better at being non-heterosexist. That gives younger men or women money and other stuff that they want in exchange for friendship or more. Mm. And definition 2 is a scam, usually found on apps like Snapchat, dating sites, Instagram, and Facebook, where they claim they want to give you $500 allowance weekly. Usually they say their name is Heather or Sugar Mama Heather. Profoundly annoying.
Kyle, what's a hey mama?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Never mind then.
What's a hey mama?
Yeah.
Is that a term? Like H-E-Y? Like hey? Hey mama? I don't know. It's a greeting that you give to your mom when you're in the South. Hey mama!
Hey Mama is a song recorded by French record producer David Guetta featuring Trinidadian rapper Nicki Minaj.
Thanks for the adjectives for who Nicki Minaj is. Yeah, I know who Nicki Minaj is.
But it's a thing. Hey Mama lesbian is a term to describe a lesbian who dresses in a masculine way and uses the phrase hey mamas to flirt with other lesbians.
Interesting. I didn't know this was a type of lesbian.
It's recently come into my life, and I've just nodded along and laughed like I knew what it meant.
Oh.
And I did not know what it meant.
We need to ask the bad queers about this.
I guess so.
The last...
It's not a sugar mama necessarily. Okay. But I would say probably that a mask-presenting lesbian likely has some amount of masculine culture projected onto her, deserved or desired or not, and that the dude is supposed to be the one that has the money. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe a hey mama lesbian is assumed to also be a sugar mama because of that.
That sucks if you happen to be more masculine presenting as a lesbian and then everyone's just like, oh, cool, you're paying. And you're like, well, fuck, just because I'm more masculine presenting doesn't mean I have money.
But I bet it's a thing.
I bet it's a thing too.
I'm going to look into it.
Okay. Not while I'm talking though.
No.
Okay, great. The last one is MILF, which we all know what MILF is.
Well, it's a mom I'd like to fuck.
Mama? Mom. Yeah. Mother. Mom. I think the point is there are a lot of...
Which is not a revelation that I'm saying to Ma Johnson. Like, they like, Mom, comma, I'd like to fuck. No. It's like...
Oh, yeah. Mom, I'd like to fuck. I think the point is we have a lot of names for age gap relationships, and I don't think they're very flattering. No. I don't think they have very positive connotations. Even cougar sounds like very predatory because like... you're literally describing a predator, like, so I think we have a lot of negative stereotypes of age gap relationships and describe them in very negative ways.
Absolutely.
And very sexually focused. Like those are all like, there's some degree of like sex involved in the descriptions like of cougars and of MILFs and, all that.
I agree. It's something that I've struggled with a ton. Actually.
With what?
The idea that, you left out Chicken Hawk.
Chicken Hawk? I don't know that one.
Oh, I am one, if that helps. That's an older gay man who dates younger men.
Oh.
And before we exit the terminology section, and then I'll get back to the thing that I was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Gen Z has invented the term hagmaxer.
I've never heard that before.
HAGMAXXER. A Gen Z term for younger men who pursue long-term relationships with financially stable and experienced millennial women. Hagmaxer. Quote, basically, we're talking about people dating out of their typical age range, but in the less icky way.
Okay. Oh, so it's less icky to call them a hagmaxer?
Apparently.
That doesn't seem... I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe don't refer to your significant other as a hag.
Also, I feel like Gen Z often just makes up terms so that we can say they're talking funny. Like, they're not actually saying that, but they say that so they can see us freak out about Gen Z speak.
Is that what skibbity toilet means? Is that just a thing they made up to be like, now they'll think we actually say this?
They're just trolling us.
Yeah. True.
Anyway, yeah, hagmaxing as being a thing. So, okay, back to what I was talking about, though.
Yeah.
All of these terms, to one degree or another, presume that in any relationship with a sufficient age gap, at least one person is being taken advantage of in some way.
Yeah.
Whether that is financially or like mental faculties wise in terms of the older person, or taking advantage of, in a predatory way, the naivete,
like for sexual reasons,
the impressionability of the younger person on the part of the older, vis-a-vis Chicken Hawk, or cougar for that matter. Like, that's the thing. It's like deep into our language and our culture. The idea that if you are more than fill in the blank years apart in age, somebody is taking advantage of the other.
Where does age gap start? Like what? how many years does it need to be for you to be like, oh, that's a big age gap? Not a big, that's an age gap relationship.
Well, so I did want to talk. I will answer that. Maybe because I don't have a number. I like this idea that age gap matters less the older you get. Mm-hmm. That's my lived experience anyway. I think that like the difference between an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old is huge, gigantic, massive difference, and that the difference between a 30-year-old and a 37-year-old is basically nothing.
Yeah.
Despite being the same number of years. The half your age plus 7 thing.
Yeah.
What's super interesting is I forget what the quote was when you were just talking about it. If you're not familiar, everybody, it's like if you are the older partner, that the youngest you should go is half your age plus 7 years. I'm 46. Half my age is 23. Add 7 of that is 30. This rule would say that I'm at like no lower than 30. The thing is, that rule was actually proposed in the rule is a strong word. That framework, that guideline, comes from the late 19th century, so the 1890s or so, as not the minimum, but the ideal.
Oh, no way.
That men were told that they should ideally seek out a wife that was half their age plus 7. Huh. And a few years younger than that was considered too young. They were sort of, that was the sweet spot in their head. Now, people also married younger and started having kids younger. A lot of that was, the structure of society was very, very different because we didn't have college degrees being sort of a prerequisite to entering large swaths of the workforce. And it was very, very different. And people were younger, but the whole thing was supposed to be, if you are 26, then you should marry a 20-year-old girl.
Wow.
Anyway, what was I talking about?
I don't know.
You asked how much of an age gap is an age gap.
Yeah.
And I do think that it depends on the, I think it depends. Like, you can't just say number. I can't just say 7 years.
I think it's 5.
Great. Okay. So you think a 75-year-old dating a 69-year-old, that's an age gap.
Yeah.
But a 75-year-old dating a 70-year-old, that's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I admire you sticking to your guns.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I believe pretty firmly, even though this is a gross oversimplification, that anybody under 25 is a dum-dum, and like, their brain is their brain is not done cooking yet.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I also think that becomes sort of a like thing. So I agree with you on the 5 years. So if you were over 30, nobody under 25. And then after that, I don't know.
But like we even talked earlier that there's judgment and like there's judgment of age gap relationships in spite of the legality of it. And we're doing a little bit of the same thing by judging people who date people who are under 25, because technically 18 plus is legally what's okay.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a bad person, Kyle.
I know. You just do it. Saying something bad isn't being a bad person.
Yeah, that's true.
I wanted to get to the Taylor Swift song. Oh. They say I did something bad.
No.
Then why does it feel so good? It's going on the list.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It happened.
That's okay. Great. Enjoy, everybody.
What are we talking about next?
Well, so before we leave the terminology section, I was doing research for this episode, and multiple times the concept of the May-December relationship came up. Have you heard that phrase?
Yeah.
The May-December relationship. And for whatever reason this time, that really started to bother me.
Why?
Because I think 28 to 46, that's the thing that I'm in right now, an 18-year age gap. If you're going to call that a May-December relationship, I am nowhere near dead. That's not like, it's December is the end of the year. It's the end of your life is what they're trying to say there. And I think mine's more of a March, August.
It doesn't roll off the tongue quite so well, I don't think.
But like I'm like probably halfway through my life.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
And this is an awkward or tortured segue to, I think one of the things that we worry about or that's always in the back of our mind and don't talk about when we talk about age gaps is mortality. It's vitality and mortality. This idea that like beyond a certain age gap, the older one's going to die before the younger one. Yeah. And I think that everybody has some level of discomfort on some level that they're not prepared to talk about.
I didn't think about that. I mean, yeah, like the fear is that the younger one's going to have to take care of the older one.
And is that fair?
But that could happen. You know, you can get in an accident and one person would have to take care of the other person. Like things can happen that even when you have the same age. So
yeah, but you're begging the exception, Kyle.
I'm begging.
I'm going to live forever, though.
I think when you're signing up to a relationship, you're signing up for in good health and bad. And yeah, maybe you do have to, when you're the younger one, have to accept that will come sooner than you would prefer it to. But is that necessarily a bad thing, or is that just, you know, part of being in a relationship?
So,
yeah. Should I tell you some data?
Is that where we're at? I guess it is. Wow, this is a long episode. Okay, Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the Perceived Inequity Predicts Prejudice Towards Age Gap Relationships study.
Oh, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Perceived inequity.
Yep.
Okay.
This is by Brian Collisson and Lucinia Ponce de Leon.
Ooh.
In 2018.
Discovered the fountain of youth.
Discovered that you can...
Is this that thing where the nominative determinism?
Mm-hmm. Yep. She discovered the fountain of... Oh, youth. The fountain of youth. And we're talking about young people. I got there.
Okay, great.
you were shaking your head like, yeah. Okay. That's what we were talking about. This was published in Current Psychology, which is a global...
It was published in Current Psychology 15 years ago.
2018? No. That's pretty recent.
I just think it's a dumb name for a journal. I write about this in the book a little bit. Like, there are lots of journals out there that the names of which are funny to me.
This is a peer-reviewed leading-edge research platform.
Great.
I don't know that it's a journal because they called it a global platform for publishing peer-reviewed research.
They just want to make sure that they know that print is dead.
I guess so. So apparently within the introduction, they talked about age gap relationships, and apparently the average age difference in North America among married couples is how many years?
Like 3.
2.3 years.
Yeah.
Which is...
Let's save ourselves some time. And instead of doing the segment, I have a segment later about like age gaps declining. Yeah, age gaps are declining. Like that, it used to be 5 years, like around the turn of the century and last century, and that it was even greater, like around the time of the Victorians. It was even more than that. And there's a lot of thoughts about why, but like age gaps, despite what we see in media with like the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world, the George Clooney's of the world, or whatever, age gaps in aggregate are actually declining.
But I want to... Why do they think that is?
Why do they think that is?
Yeah. Did you said they were theories?
Yeah, there are some theories. One is that women are allowed to work and go to school. Mm-hmm. And so they are... first, they're financially independent, and also they're waiting until later in their life to get married at a time when they are then marrying peers that they meet in the workplace, and that they tend to be closer to their age than getting married off by their family, or, you know, being I guess, groomed. Anyway, changing gender roles is one that our society now leads to a more egalitarian relationship. Men and women share housework. Men and women share child rearing responsibilities, and that has led to a shift in seeking partners who are a similar age and a similar stage of life, and that's in service of that sort of egalitarian norm. Third, as social and cultural influences, that age-similar partnerships are now accepted more than they used to be, and age gaps are less emphasized in the context of romantic love than they used to be. 4, biological and evolutionary factors. So this whole thing about like men prefer younger partners because of reproduction and women seek older partners for stability. Social and cultural changes have made that less of a concern. A lot of that is medical, that women can safely bring pregnancies to term later in their life than at any other part of human history. And so got to get knocked up before I'm too old to is less of a pressure than it used to be, even though it is still a pressure less than it used to be.
Yeah.
And increased life expectancy. So that life expectancy has increased and people are forming new relationships later in life, often with partners closer to their own age. That is often tied to talks about the divorce rate. That like a lot of second and third marriages are after the kids are gone and you meet somebody socially around your own age, and that's more of a possibility in today's society.
I think gays, I don't have any data on this, but I think gays are more likely to be in age gap relationships than straights.
It feels true to me, but I don't know.
And I think that's because we have less options. There are less of us.
Great.
And we have less. So we have to date outside of expected, norms.
Yeah.
I think that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to settle, you've got to settle for the age gap too.
Let's see. Evolutionary. Yeah. Okay. We talked about that. The methodology of this study, 99 participants participated.
Great.
There were 99 participants. They were each paid 26 cents towards their Amazon account.
What?
I don't know. It just said that they were compensated $26 US.
Oh, $26.
Sorry, no, cents. US cents.
That
US
was
cents.
what you said the first time. If anybody said to me, hey, could you help me out? There's 26 cents in it for you. I would punch them.
I would be offended at the, just ask me for free.
I would light their paper on fire or urinate on them in a bad way.
Yeah.
Like, I just, no. That's a slap in the dick.
Yeah, this is rude. I don't know why they did that. Anyway.
What can you get for 26 cents on Amazon? That doesn't even pay for tax on anything.
No, it's nothing. I don't get it. Amazon has like this survey section, like you can sign up for Amazon and like take surveys to make money. So I think it's one of those things like, if you do enough surveys, you can make a whole $2 or whatever.
How many do you have to do per hour?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, participants were presented with 16 relationships which varied in regard to race, weight, socioeconomic status.
I don't like where this is going.
And most importantly, age.
I don't like where this is going.
What they confirm. What's your fear?
My fear is that the current political climate in this country, the primary divide between conservative and liberal, is how different can you think someone is from you and still treat them like a human fucking being? Yeah. I think that there are whole swaths of our species, human beings, that are wired to hate that which is different and those that are not. And I think that we know which party each of those people belongs to politically.
Yeah.
And my fear is that there's going to be a bunch of conservative fuckface assholes who are just going to look at whatever their relationship is and say, yes, those are the good ones. And anything that looks different than mine is bad, and mark it thusly because they're dickbag fuckface assholes.
Yeah, not exactly what they studied, but I get the fear of having all these different relationships between
interracial bad, gay bad, big age gap bad.
They didn't have a gay relationship. Unfortunately,
I'm worked up, Kyle.
Good over something they didn't even actually study. People did express prejudice towards age gap couples, greater prejudice than age matched couples. They also perceived inequality among age gap couples. They perceived that the older partner reaps greater rewards than the younger partner.
Wow. Okay.
They evaluated age gap couples less favorably than interracial, mixed weight, or mixed socioeconomic status couples. So they judged age gap relationships the worst.
Wild. Okay.
And this is just
also the unequal in what way, right? Like, because there's got to be, I don't know how they would measure that, but like, it's already unequal. I have been on this earth an unequal number of years to my boyfriend. So like, what's the unequal how?
I think in like the power dynamic.
All right. Well,
yeah. And this is just in their, as part of their discussion, they said that there were a 2006 and 2008 study that found that age gap couples tend to be less committed to their relationships than non-stigmatized couples. So perhaps it is a stigma that is at play, not the fact that it is an age gap relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the Gayest.
Great.
So confirms that we do judge. I like to judge age gap even like less favorably than interracial. Like this country has such an issue with race, and we're so racist that the fact that we were like even more judgmental of age gaps is wild to me.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole thing about like Clarence Thomas talking about gay marriage with no like acknowledgement whatsoever that his own interracial marriage would have been illegal.
Yeah.
Like just, in living memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, when was Loving versus Virginia? Anyway, oh yeah, okay. So it just makes me mad, Kyle. Let's talk about viability then. Like
Okay.
Instead of, the way that people judge relationships, let's talk about like what makes a good age gap relationship.
Yeah.
So a lot of this comes from Psychology Today, but in an article called "How Much Does Age Matter in a Relationship?" there's this whole section on assessing the viability of an age gap relationship, and 4 questions to ask to determine like, is this a good age gap relationship or a bad age gap relationship?
Okay.
So number 1, is this a short-term or long-term relationship? And he says the fun of a short-term fling may outweigh the challenges that might come with navigating long-term compatibility. Older partners might enjoy the vitality and physical attractiveness of a younger partner. Younger partners can benefit from the status, money, and knowledge of older partners. Those kinds of stereotypes of old and young came up so often, and it was really frustrating because it's like older people can be hot too. Like someone can it's not just you're young so you are automatically hot. I don't know. And some people, no matter how old they get, do not have their shit together.
Yeah.
Like referring to them as being more stable. What?
Yeah.
Or wise. What?
Yeah.
Like, no, some people are just bad at life and that never gets better.
Yeah.
Well into their 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. So the stereotypes that they have of old and young that just kept coming up were frustrating.
But I do think that this is I think this is dancing around just like committing or commitment, right? Like,
well, I have a different viewpoint of when I'm hooking up with people versus when I'm dating. So like, I understand like, is this short term is very nice for, I think, way to say like, is this a hookup or is this a casual thing? Like, or is this an actual like long-term relationship?
Yeah. Yep. Number 2.
Yeah.
Do you share the same long-term goals? Long-term relationships of any nature are more successful when couples want the same things. Because many life goals are age-linked, the question of shared goals can be more pressing for age gap couples. Is one of you working when the other wants to retire? Do you want to spend your weekends in the same way? Et cetera, et cetera.
I also read articles that were like, the young one wants to go out and party and the older one wants to stay home and read. And it's like, also very like stereotyped assumptions about what each person likes to do in their free time.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like to go out and party anymore because I'm older, but that's just coincidence.
Right. I mean, it's okay for those trends, for those stereotypes to be like born of some sort of truth. It's when we start treating them as absolutes. Kyle, we're talking about stereotypes.
We are. It's a type of stereo.
It is interesting. I'm not sure if I agree with this whole thing or not, is where I'm trying to go. I think that sharing the same long-term goals is important. And I don't know that long-term goals are necessarily as age-linked as they're talking about here. Like, gay couples, anyway. Maybe that's. Are they dancing around babies? Is where I'm going, right? Like,
that's got to be one of the things they're referring to.
Because this isn't specifically about gay people,
right?
And maybe that's why age gaps are more prevalent in the gay community. That is less of a pressure on what our relationships look like.
Yeah.
Number 3, do either of you want children? Well, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in a long-term relationship and one partner is older, an open discussion about whether you want to have children, biological, adopted, or fostered, can be especially important. Certainly, this is a discussion that partners in all long-term relationships benefit from having, but age gap relationships may face particular challenges. Older women with younger men are less likely to be able to have a biological child and or may be uninterested in parenting young children in their 40s or 50s. Older men may likewise be wary of having a child, knowing they will be older when their children are teens. These are important conversations to broach when a relationship is expected to be long-term.
Do you want to have kids?
Well, in the history of the podcast, Kyle, how many times do you think you've asked me that?
I mean, a handful.
And how many different answers have I given?
I think you usually have. I haven't asked you in a while.
Oh.
I feel like I've asked you in the past and you said you did, but...
I did. Sometimes I talk myself out of wanting kids because I look at the clock, it's ticking, and I think, if I have kids at 50, then I will be 68 when they are graduating from high school. Can I have a high schooler and be my parents' age? Being with somebody who's much younger than me, it feels more possible. Because at least one parent will be young and fun.
Yeah.
Because if I'm 50, then he'll be 32, and that means he'll be 50 when the kid's graduated from high school. That's basically me now. I would be fine having a high school senior right now. A lot of my peers do.
You'd be fine having a high school senior right now?
Sure, why not? I could handle that.
Wow. I certainly couldn't, but we're not talking about me.
Also, my Murph, my youngest brother's kids are high school age now, and that I kind of like their relationship. I think it's fun. And then number 4, do you have your friends' support? This is a dangerous one.
Oh.
Our friends and family play a role in our relationship success, whether we wish them to or not. In general, when friends approve of relationships, they help sustain our relationship, whereas their disapproval can be accompanied by behaviors that make it harder for us to feel invested in our relationships. Age gap relationships are often stigmatized, but if friends and family approve, the relationship becomes easier to sustain. There is a Disney romance bullshit part of me that wants to think love prevails no matter what. To a certain extent, I think that can be true. But it is true that, like, if your family hates them and your friends hate them, it's going to be a rougher ride.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to have more fights and, one way with one group or another. You're going to have more discussions about this. You're going to have to, like, walk into tense environments with them. You're going to have to weather more storms like that. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's some ways to think about the relationship. You have tips for making them better?
I don't think we should. I think we should just talk about you.
Oh, great. There's a tip.
What? Do you feel any judgment of your relationship?
First of all, nobody judges me more than me, Kyle.
Oh, do you judge your own relationship?
Sometimes, sure. I think
because of the age gap or because of other things?
Well, because of lots of things, but many of them are like attributable to the age gap.
Interesting.
I think there is a tremendous amount of stigma and pressure just culturally, whether anybody says, "Hey, chicken hawk" or not. And I think that that can gnaw at me sometimes. This idea of, like, who's taking advantage of who, then leads me to ask who's taking advantage of who without even, like, rejecting the premise in the first place. And, like, I have a great job. I'm very well established in my career. I make a lot more money than he does. Is he taking advantage of me? That's a fear I don't need when I'm evaluating whether to yell at him about the dishes or not or whatever. Is that why he's with me? I think about fetishization. I think about the hey daddy culture of gay men, and like, is he just into me because I'm a fetish, like that I represent some archetype that isn't me but this like object? I think about, am I just into him because he's young and beautiful, and that's a shallow reason to be with a person? Or like, all of those things very much weigh on me sometimes.
I didn't realize that,
but very rarely.
Oh,
I want to be clear, it's very rarely. And usually when something as bad has happened, or is like, there's a conflict, there's a difficult conversation, there's somebody says something at a time when I'm stressed out about something else. Like the vast majority of the time, we wake up in bed, we make coffee, we get ready to do our day, we go to work, we come home, we make dinner, we talk, we watch TV, we do whatever we do with our evening, and we go to bed. And none of that matters age-wise.
You don't pull out licenses and compare them head to head or
at all.
Talk about what your class song was in high school.
Right. And it does come up from time to time, usually like cultural bullshit references. Like,
yeah, when's the last time, do you remember the last time it came up that you like really felt the age gap?
Yeah, I said something sounded like an Alanis Morissette lyric, and he said, "Who?"
Oh.
And I'm still not sure if he was fucking with me or not. But then I sang a couple of her songs or hummed a couple of the songs, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I for sure know who that is." But she wasn't enough of an icon or a fixture for him to be able to place name with music.
Yeah.
So I believe that in that moment he did not know who that was.
Interesting.
And as somebody who like graduated from high school the year that he was born, when she was unavoidable on the radio,
yeah,
holy shit, what planet are we on where we don't have her in common? Because she's like, her and her music are very important to me.
Yeah.
But who gives a fuck at the same time?
Yeah.
I don't know. Fucking Alanis Morissette, are you kidding me? Jesus. Most of the time it doesn't matter. And when it does, it doesn't matter for very long, or in a way that lasts. I don't know.
I tend to be more willing to like hook up with people of any age. And that, so like my age range for hooking up goes really far and wide, as long as it's legal. And then like the people though I date, I have like a pretty tight,
nice
kind of like expectation. So yeah, I may need to extend. I'm trying to date right now and it's like not clicking. So I may need to extend my willingness to date outside of a specific range.
Have you gotten to the end of the swiping? They're like, just
there's
nobody left, Kyle.
I have in a couple of apps. I haven't been on them in a little bit, so they may have new people now that have but I have before gotten to like the end of Hinge, and it's like, this is everyone. You're there. You're done.
So this is a pattern for me.
Yeah.
I recognize that. You recognize that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to construct a hypothetical here. So, but it's not hypothetical because it actually happened. If, to me, if you were dating somebody and it was getting serious, and then you had this conversation where you realized you didn't know it was going great. I mean, like, we're talking like several dates in, and then you find out that he thought that you were much older than you actually were, and you thought he was much younger than you actually were. Let's say right now you had this conversation with this person that you've been dating, and you come to realize that both of you thought the other one was 44, but really you're 38 and he's 58. What would you do? Would you take all of the stuff that was going well and say, yeah, but man, 20 years is too much?
No, I would keep rolling with it. If it was going well, like the number of people that I click with and go on multiple dates with is so few that I think I would keep going. Plus, older feels better for some reason for me. Like in my head, when I construct the ideal person, he's a little bit older than me. So older is totally fine in my book. So I think I would keep dating him.
So now let's go the other direction.
This I don't know.
You assumed that this person was 33, 34. And this person assumed that you were 33 or 34. And it turns out he's 27.
Yeah, I still think that things don't click with that many people. It's a very limited audience of people that.
But it is clicking. In this hypothetical, It is clicking.
Yeah.
It has been clicking so far.
So then, I think I would keep trying it out and keep going with it because the number of people that I like kind of fall for like that and want to keep going on multiple dates with is so few.
There's so many people online on the profiles who are like, if you are over 40, I will not respond or I will block you.
Yeah.
Or like, nobody under 40 is a thing that I've seen less often, but it happens. And it's so wild to me. Like it isn't just a number. I don't want to pretend that age is just a number, but also the number that is a person's age isn't that person.
Yeah.
And whatever baggage you're bringing along with that number doesn't belong to them.
Yeah.
Like
and you're really right off every single 41-year-old. Like
right.
that's a big group of people that you're just decided you're not.
Be into who you're into. Don't be into who you're not. And you don't need to announce your requirements.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so this situation happened to you?
Yeah. My second marriage, which was many, many years ago. And the numbers maybe are different, but I was 30, he was 22, and both of us thought the other was like 27. And, yeah.
Why do you think you tend to date younger?
Well, okay. This is a great question, Kyle.
Thanks.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Thank God for therapy. The fear is that it is a pathology, right? That like, that my psychology is such that I must be getting something out of it somehow. That there's a thing to figure out. And maybe there is. I don't know. I think that I'm afraid that there is. But I do take solace in the fact that like it almost never actually matters. So it must be fine, or it's fine until it's not. But I think the fear is like that there is some like lost youth that I'm trying to regain, that I think I am as young as he is on some level. And so I am a peer, that I am his peer, and that is some weird desire to be younger myself in a pathological way, like in a way that is ultimately bad and that will lead to us not working out or some other kind of pain because I'm chasing a pathology.
I don't feel that doesn't seem to fit of my estimation of you.
That's comforting.
I feel like you have a pretty good self-acceptance, and not for an idealized version of yourself or any kind of. I feel like you have a good acceptance of right where you're at. So I don't see you chasing youth or pretending like you're something you're not very often.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Something we didn't talk about either is the stuff that's out there that says that we date relatively speaking, how old our parents were when we were born, that babies of young parents tend to date young people. And the people whose parents were more mature when they had them tend to date people who are older. In which case, like, my parents weren't like high school babies having babies, but they were young. And maybe it's as simple as that. I don't know.
We also didn't talk about, I wrote down that age gaps are actually hot.
Oh, like there's a lot of porn about it. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think like differences of all kind are hot, like age, size. Like I think differences are hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Yeah. Height.
Yeah. And especially when it's like the reverse of what you'd expect, like the younger one topping the older one, like that to me is really hot.
Yeah. Yep. I get it.
Yeah.
There's another thing to like explore here too. Sorry, going back to the pathology.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this fetish thing a little bit more too, of like, there's the fear that he is into daddies because of something that happened to him, or that there's a pathology for him that is leading him to be with someone like me.
Yeah.
And that's also not my perception of him at all. He's supremely confident and seems pretty aware, and it doesn't feel like a compensation at all. And I don't feel like a fetish at all. And
that means a lot. The fact that you don't feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's always that I'm just a constitutionally anxious person. Maybe there's always that little nugget. Like if I let that little demon out of its cage for just a second and let it speak to me, the things that it speaks to me that are potential fears are this list of stuff. And that doesn't mean that I'm actually afraid of it. It doesn't mean that I'm actually like losing sleep over it or anything, but I can let that demon out and speak the fears.
Yeah.
How much does that mean that they're actually there? I don't know.
Yeah. This is where my therapist and I talk about like when there's the possibility of like I think some thoughts and then like it swirls and gets bigger and like start ruminating and things get worse and worse and worse. And we've talked about the idea of, at least for me, the visualization of when you have like thoughts that you don't want, that they are on a boat and they're going down a stream and there's that thought and then there it goes. Goodbye thought. And then it just sails right away and you don't have to like hold on to every single thought that you have. So that seems like a thing you might already be doing because it's not controlling your life or not taking over your brain. Your like thoughts come up and then, okay, thought, there you go. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. If I have one thought that I have a harder time putting on the boat, it's other people's judgments. I've been very fortunate to have friends and family who are either outwardly supportive or shut the fuck up if they're not. And but that was a fear for a really long time. And the more people that we interact with that are important to us that either are fine with it or learn to be or don't express it if they're not, that it's become less and less and less. So maybe it is on the river now, going down the river. But early in the relationship, there were like I struggled with that a little bit. What are people going to think?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, did we do it?
I think so. We talked about age gap relationships a whole bunch.
Are they gay? I don't think we
I think all I know is that my guess is that age gaps are more likely to be gay because of my theory of there's less of us to date. But I don't think we prove that in any way.
Well, okay. There is a theory about the decline in age gaps that is about options, global trends in having options. And that would like what is making age gaps shrink for straight people might actually be a reason that age gaps for gay people are where they're at and that they are higher and that it's all for the same reasons.
Yeah.
So, Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something gay about age gaps. I think we're more likely to understand what it's like to have society not accept a relationship because of just the sheer nature of who the people are in it. I think we're naturally more understanding of age gaps as a result of that.
Yeah.
But I also think that we can be like, there's the fear that, you know, gays are pedophiles. There's the fear that gays probably have to deal with more in age gap relationships, is that someone is like taking advantage of someone else. I think that shows up for both, but is more likely to show up for gays. Like, okay, well, when did you get together? How old were they? And, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
So I think there's a lot gay about age gaps.
I think there's a lot gay in my day-to-day because of an age gap. Should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
A gap break.
Okay.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest, but first, our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We're on social media at Gayish Podcast.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. I almost fucked it up.
You get to fuck it up one every 400 episodes. That's fine.
Excellent. Speaking of which, our physical mailing address, we got some stuff.
Oh, what did we get?
First, we got a card. I'm going to make you read it while I open other stuff.
Okay.
We got a card.
Oh, it's a little dragon. It's a bear riding a dragon that says Happy Holidays. Dear Mike, Kyle, and Derek, thank you all for putting on such an amazing podcast for all of us to listen to. It helped me expand my knowledge of gay culture as well. It has been a comfort to listen to on my walks to the office. Whenever a topic comes up with my friends, I often recommend Gayish to help them understand more about gay life. I always tell them it's easily a 3 out of 4 dildo podcast, but could be a 4 out of 4 if I ever get laid while listening.
I love it.
This receives polite but confused chuckles. I hope your 2025 is full of laughs, loves, friends, and family. Keep up the great work and always be butch, fabulous, and you. Happy holidays, Dragon Pup Shiru. Thank you.
Dragon Pup Shiru, yeah.
Dragon Pup Shiru. Thank you. That was very sweet of you.
It's very, very sweet. This is from, it's a Christmas card, but from Adonis Arcana.
Oh.
Happy holidays. Thank you for being an essential part of our journey this year. Your authenticity, strength, and support inspire everything we do. Wishing you joy, peace, and a bright year ahead. With gratitude, Felix Palafox, Adonis Arcana.
Thanks, Felix, and thanks, Adonis Arcana.
Yeah. From our makeup episode.
Yeah. What's in there?
This is just a bag full of jock straps. It's not from anyone? I don't see a... It's literally a bag full of jock straps, everybody.
There's 8 jock straps in here. Who sent us this?
It doesn't say.
And it doesn't say. If you sent us a bag full of jock straps...
The Shine Fulfillment, Ontario, California.
I think the mesh ones are probably for you. Because you like fabric and texture.
Ooh, sexy. Oh, it's so strappy.
I know. Look at the back of that. That's so many straps. Well, thank you, whoever gave this to us.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Gayest and Straightest?
What?
Let's talk about the tour.
Let's talk about the tour. Yeah, that's right. We're going on tour.
Yeah.
No, we're on tour.
We're actively on tour.
Here's the poster.
No one can see that.
Well, okay. I found it. This episode is coming out before we go to Chicago. So if you are in Chicago and you want to come to our show, it's day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll be at Sidetrack in the North Halstead / Boys Town neighborhood of Chicago on Saturday, March the 8th at 2 p.m. Then on March 22nd, we will be in Washington, D.C. at Pitchers at 2 p.m. And then on April 6th, San Francisco, California at Oasis. That is Sunday. Most of our shows are Saturdays, but that one is a Sunday, April 6th at 2 p.m. And then on April 20th, we're rounding out the tour in Dallas at the Rose Room, which is up on top of S4 at 1 p.m. April 20th. Come, gayishpodcast.com/book if you want tickets. Washington, D.C. is going to sell out soon, so if you've been waiting to buy, you shouldn't wait anymore.
Yeah.
And Dallas, get your shit together.
Yeah, well, we'd love to see you out. So go buy a ticket. You do have to buy a ticket. Someone asked about that. And so, yeah, all of that information, as Mike said, is available at gayishpodcast.com/book.
Do it.
Do it. Gayest and Straightest?
Sure.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
My Gayest is wearing my Have a Nice Gay t-shirt.
Oh, R.I.P. Have a nice gay.
Memories. Yeah. And my Straightest is whenever I pack to go on a trip, especially like with our quick Atlanta trip, it was just 3 days, packing stuff in my my little Under Armour bag.
Yeah.
I don't pack that much because I don't need that much for that. So that felt pretty straight.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, also, like, didn't you spend some time not clothed?
I hooked up with a bunch of different. I think that was going to be my Gayest for the
sex doesn't count
Patreon, but the sheer number of people that I managed to hook up with while I was in Atlanta for such a short time.
Great. Yeah, sorry I ruined your.
That's okay.
Plan for the next episode.
Pick something else or not. What about you?
Well, the straightest thing about me this week is the power steering going out in the Jeep and the conversation that I had with the mechanic. I was like, that's for sure what it is. It made this noise. Then it got hard to steer. Good luck moving it. You know, it was... Also, anytime I talk to a mechanic, I immediately butch it up.
You got to.
Yeah. And then the gayest thing about me this week was we were talking about work stuff, work events primarily, and I was trying to suggest that we think about our audiences the way that they do at musicals. So I was like, you've got your back of house, you've got your front of house, you've got your cast, and we need to like manage. You know, I queened out on theater gay bullshit for a little while.
Perfect.
Yeah. We have a listener's Gayest and Straightest. This one comes to us from that guy from that place. David.
Yeah.
Great.
Hey, Mike, Kyle, and Derek. This is David from Decatur, Georgia. I've been a fan for a while now. Finally got a Gayest and Straightest that I think is worthy of the podcast. Spent a lot of time out in my yard yesterday cutting up down tree limbs with a manual saw, which is my straightest. The Gayest is the reason I used a manual saw, is I'm terrified of chainsaws.
Well, thanks, David.
Oh, that's it? Just hung up at the end there?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Bye.
Decatur, I barely know her. You being afraid of a chainsaw is...
I'm kind of scared of chainsaws, too.
They're terrifying. But is that because we're gay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely is.
Okay, everybody. That's it. We did it. We've arrived.
We've arrived at the end.
Thank you to my boyfriend for being a baby.
Yeah, oh God. Thank you to everyone in an age gap relationship. Forget the haters and embrace your love.
That's right.
And thank you to our super gap bridgers. Thank you to Locomotive, Simon Srirachi, Kaylee Adams, Kit Oliver, Kobe Gordon, Squoggle, Pip, Andrew Bugby, William Bryant, John Crowley, Yost Osel, Jonathan Montanius, Forrest Nail, Steve Douglas, Explosive Lasagna, Michael Covington, Just Jamie, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Cacciatorians, and Jerome York. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your money. That's it. This has been Gayish. From the Chris Cacciatorian Studios, I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See ya.
See you next week, chitlins.
Did I just touch your toe under the table?
Don't foot me while we're talking, Kyle.
Foot whatever I want to.